The internet never forgets, and some mysteries it holds refuse to be solved. This video explores 7 of the most haunting unsolved cases that originated online or were amplified by the internet's darkest corners. From vanished individuals to disturbing discoveries, these stories remain open wounds in the digital age. Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. 2 Dutch students disappear into the Panamanian jungle in April 2014. Kris Kremers, 21, and Lisanne Froon, 22, arrived in Boquete for a volunteer program, bright and full of adventure. On April 1st, they set out to hike the El Pianista Trail, a popular route near the Continental Divide. They never returned. Their phones and camera told a fractured story. 10 days after they vanished, the phones began showing multiple failed emergency calls. Call logs revealed desperate attempts to reach 112 and 9911 starting the very day they went missing. The calls couldn't connect in the dense jungle. By April 6th, both phones were turned on and off repeatedly, preserving battery. Someone was trying to signal for help. Then the camera revealed something stranger. On April 8th, 90 photos were taken in complete darkness between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. The flash illuminated fragments of the jungle, a backpack, the back of Chris's head, marking sticks, a ravine. The images were chaotic and directionless. Some showed what appeared to be trail markers made from red plastic bags tied to branches. Photo 509 was deleted from the camera. Its contents remain unknown. 10 weeks later, a local woman found Lisanne's boot with her foot still inside, along the Culebra River miles downstream from the trail. Search teams recovered 33 bone fragments scattered all the riverbank. Both girls' pelvic bones were found, along with Lisanne's ribs. Chris's bones were bleached unnaturally white, far beyond normal decomposition. The backpack containing the phones and camera was pristine, showing no water damage despite being found in the river. Panamanian authorities ruled it an accidental death from disorientation and exposure. But questions multiply. Why would catastrophers with a map get so catastrophically lost on a marked trail? Why were the bones scattered over such distance when the river was shallow that season? Why was Chris's bone condition so unusual? Local guides reported the trail was well traveled and nearly impossible to lose. Some witnesses claimed to see the girls after April 1st. A taxi driver reported taking them somewhere that afternoon. These accounts were never fully investigated. Digital forensics revealed the phone's passwords were entered incorrectly multiple times after April 5th, suggesting someone unfamiliar with the devices was trying to access them. The backpack's pristine condition seemed impossible given the environment. Local residents whispered about criminal activity in the area, drug traffickers using remote trails. One guide who assisted in the search later drowned under suspicious circumstances. Another guide fled the country shortly after the remains were found. The case file remains officially closed. Online sleuths continue analyzing every pixel of those 90 night photos, searching for evidence of foul play or proof of accident. The truth remains somewhere in that jungle, in the darkness captured by 90 desperate flashes of light. The mysterious death of Elisa Lam, a young woman's body, is found in a hotel water tank. For weeks, guests complained about the water. Elisa Lam, 21, checked into the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles on January 26, 2013. The Canadian student was traveling alone, documenting her West Coast journey on social media. She posted regularly about her adventures, philosophical thoughts, and struggles with bipolar disorder. On January 31st, she vanished. Hotel staff filed a missing person report. Her parents flew down from Vancouver desperate for answers. Police released elevator surveillance footage, hoping someone would recognize her. The video went viral immediately. 4 minutes of disturbing behavior. Elisa enters the elevator and presses multiple floor buttons. She waits, then peers out cautiously into the hallway. She steps out and back in repeatedly. She presses herself into the corner, then moves to the panel, pressing more buttons frantically. She steps outside the elevator car, waving her arms in strange gestures, appearing to talk to someone unseen. Her hands move in odd patterns, fingers spreading and contracting. The elevator doors never closed during this entire sequence despite her repeated button presses. The footage sparked immediate speculation. Was she running from someone? Was she experiencing a psychotic episode? The hand gestures reminded some of the Korean game, where players hide from an elevator ghost. Others saw drug-induced paranoia. Mental health experts suggested symptoms of bipolar mania. Paranormal enthusiasts claimed supernatural presence. On February 19th, maintenance workers climbed to the roof following guest complaints about low water pressure and unusual taste. The Cecil Hotel had 4 large water tanks atop the building. Inside one of them, floating face up, was Elisa's naked body. Her clothes and belongings were found at the bottom of the tank beneath her. The hatch had been opened. The coroner ruled it an accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a significant contributing factor. Toxicology showed her prescription medications in her system, but at lower levels than expected, suggesting she wasn't taking them regularly. No alcohol or recreational drugs. No signs of physical trauma or sexual assault. But the logistics trouble investigators and internet researchers alike. The roof access was locked and alarmed. The water tank was 10 feet high, the opening heavy and difficult to maneuver. Elisa would have had to climb a ladder, open the hatch, and somehow enter the water. Security footage showed no one accessing the roof on the days surrounding her disappearance. Maintenance workers insisted the roof alarm would have sounded if triggered, yet no alarm was recorded. The elevator footage continues to disturb viewers. Why didn't the doors close? Some elevators have a hold feature if buttons are pressed in certain sequences, possibly explaining the malfunction. But her behavior seems to respond to something or someone outside the frame. Investigators found no evidence of another person. Hotel guests reported strange sounds and experiences during their stays. Though the Cecil had long been known for dark history, the hotel itself carries weight. Serial killers Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger both stayed there during their murder sprees. Numerous suicides and deaths occurred within its walls over decades. The Black Dahlia Elizabeth Short was reportedly last seen at the Cecil before her infamous murder in 1947. Some see Elisa as another victim of the building's curse. Others see only a tragic mental health crisis. Online communities remain divided. Documentaries, forums, YouTube channels dedicate thousands of hours to analyzing every detail. Frame-by-frame breakdowns of the elevator video, investigations into the hotel's history, theories ranging from murder to paranormal to simple tragedy. Elisa's Tumblr posts from her final days show scattered thoughts, poetry about death, reflections on identity. Her last post came hours before she vanished. The case file lists accidental death. Questions remain in the water. Snia Ann Phillip, a doctor, vanishes on September 10, 2001. The next day, the world changes. Her disappearance is swallowed by history. Snia Ann Phillip was last seen shopping at a store in Lower Manhattan at 4 p.m. on September 10th. The 31-year-old physician lived 3 blocks from the World Trade Center with her husband Ron Lieberman. Security footage shows her purchasing lingerie and a dress at Century 21. She never returned home that night. When the towers fell the next morning, Ron reported her missing. Initially, police investigated her disappearance as a personal matter. Snia's marriage was troubled. Hospital administrators had raised concerns about her drinking and professional performance. She'd been placed on probation at her hospital. Witnesses reported seeing her at bars and clubs in the weeks before, sometimes meeting women for what appeared to be romantic encounters. Ron knew about the marital problems. They were trying to work through them. The shopping bags from Century 21 were never found. Her credit cards, last used at 4 p.m., showed no further activity. Her ATM card wasn't touched. Ron told investigators he returned home late that evening and assumed Snia was staying with family. He went to bed without concern. When he woke to news of the attacks, he immediately thought of her. She was a doctor. She would have run toward the disaster to help. This theory gained traction. Several witnesses claimed to see a woman matching Snia's description rushing toward the towers as debris began falling. One account placed her helping injured people on the street. Another had her entering the Marriott Hotel at the base of the Trade Center, which collapsed when the towers fell. No definitive identification was ever made. Hundreds of heroic civilians died trying to help that morning. Many were never identified, but investigators found troubling inconsistencies. No one saw Snia between 4 p.m. on the 10th and the attacks the next morning. That's 15 hours unaccounted for. The lingerie she purchased suggested plans with someone other than her husband. Her mother received a strange package weeks after September 11th containing a handwritten note and jewelry. The note's provenance couldn't be traced. Friends reported Snia had mentioned wanting to disappear and start fresh. She talked about feeling trapped. In 2004, a New York court declared her legally dead, concluding she died in the attacks. The decision was later overturned after investigators argued insufficient evidence. In 2008, after years of legal battles, a judge finally ruled she was a victim of the September 11th attacks, making her eligible for the Victim Compensation Fund. Her family believes she died helping others. The evidence remains circumstantial. 2 possibilities haunt this case. Either Snia died a hero, rushing toward danger to use her medical training when thousands needed help, her body pulverized beyond identification in the collapse, or she vanished deliberately the night before, using the attacks as cover to disappear, abandoning her identity when the world's attention turned elsewhere. One story honors her, the other erases her. Both remain unproven. The internet has preserved this case in a strange space between national tragedy and personal mystery. September 11th consumed everything else. Families searching for loved ones, investigators overwhelmed by the catastrophe's scale. Snia's disappearance became a footnote. Her face appears in memorial registries alongside firefighters and office workers. But unlike them, her death cannot be confirmed. She exists in historical limbo. Online researchers continue examining the timeline. Hotel registries from nearby locations. Unidentified female remains from ground zero. Witness statements from the morning. Every lead evaporates into dust and ash. Ron remarried years later, still believing his wife died in the towers. Snia's family holds memorial services. But somewhere in those 15 hours, the truth waits undiscovered. The Dyatlov Pass incident, 9 experienced hikers die in the Ural Mountains in 1959. Their tent is slashed from inside. The Soviet Union kept the case file secret for 30 years. When it finally emerged, the details seemed impossible. Igor Dyatlov led a group of ski hikers into the northern Urals in January 1959. All were experienced climbers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. They planned a difficult expedition to a Torton mountain. One member turned back early due to illness. The remaining 9 continued into the wilderness. None returned. Search parties found the abandoned tent on February 26. It had been cut open from the inside. Footprints led away down the slope. Some prints were from bare feet or socked feet. Others showed only one boot. The hikers had fled without proper clothing in temperatures far below freezing. Rescuers followed the tracks to the tree line half a mile away. Under a cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies. Both were barefoot, wearing only underwear. Branches high on the tree were broken, as if someone had climbed up desperately. A crude fire had been lit. The victims, Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko, died from hypothermia. Their skin showed minor burns. Searchers continued following tracks back toward the tent. 3 more bodies appeared in the snow. Team leader Igor Dyatlov was found reaching back toward camp. Zenaida Kolmogorova and Rustam Slobodin lay nearby. All 3 died from hypothermia trying to return. The remaining 4 took 2 months to locate. They were found in a ravine 250 feet into the woods, buried under 12 feet of snow. Unlike the others, these victims showed massive internal trauma. Lyudmila Dubinina's chest was crushed with force equivalent to a car crash. Her tongue and eyes were missing. Alexander Zolotaryov had similar chest injuries with multiple rib fractures. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol's skull was fractured. All died from their injuries. Their clothing showed something stranger. Fragments of the first victim's clothing had been cut away and worn by those who survived longer. Tests revealed some fabric pieces contained radiation levels higher than background normal. The official investigation concluded an unknown compelling force caused their deaths. The case was closed. The area was sealed off for 3 years. No official explanation was given. Avalanche was ruled out because the tent's location and the slope angle made it unlikely. Animal attack didn't match the injuries or explain why they fled without dressing. Military weapons testing was rumored but never confirmed. Some investigators mentioned strange lights in the sky reported by other hikers in the region that night. The tent itself told a story. It wasn't damaged externally. The cuts were deliberate, made from inside by someone desperately trying to escape. Supplies remained organized. Boots and winter gear lay ready. Something terrified them so completely they chose certain death by exposure over staying in the tent. The injuries on the 4 in the ravine required tremendous force. No external wounds appeared on their bodies. Only internal crushing trauma. Medical examiners compared it to a powerful shockwave. Theories have multiplied over 6 decades. Soviet military tested parachute mines or thermobaric weapons in the area. Infrasound from wind patterns created panic and disorientation. An avalanche buried the ravine victims while others froze. Paradoxical undressing from late-stage hypothermia caused them to remove clothes. Indigenous Mansi people attacked them, though no evidence supports this, and the Mansi were known as peaceful. A quarrel within the group turned violent, but this doesn't explain the tent or internal injuries. Radioactive contamination from weapons testing affected their behavior. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation. Using modern avalanche modeling, they concluded a rare type of delayed slab avalanche struck the 10 hours after they camped. This forced them to cut their way out and flee. The 4 in the ravine were buried when more snow collapsed. The radiation was attributed to thorium mantles used in camping lanterns. The missing tongue and eyes were attributed to scavenging by animals and decomposition. The case was officially closed again, but problems persist. Experienced climbers would have recognized avalanche danger. The slope angle was analyzed and found insufficient. No avalanche debris was photographed at the scene. The internal injuries without external trauma remained difficult to explain. The radiation levels, even from camping equipment, seemed elevated. And the fundamental question haunts every explanation. What frightened 9 experienced winter hikers so terribly they chose freezing to death over staying in their tent? The incident birthed a phenomenon online. Thousands of pages analyzing photos, weather data, injury reports, documentaries, books, forums dedicated to solving what happened. The Soviet cover-up suspicion fuels belief in extraordinary explanations. But perhaps the answer is simpler and stranger than we imagine. 9 people faced something in the darkness. We may never know what they saw. Brian Schaffer, a medical student, walks into a bar and never walks out. Every exit was monitored. He vanished anyway. April 1, 2006. Brian Schaffer celebrates spring break start with friends in Columbus, Ohio. The 27-year-old Ohio State medical student has everything ahead of him. His mother had recently died from cancer. He's planning a trip to Miami with his girlfriend Alexis. That night, he meets his friend William, Clint, Florence at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar near campus. They drink and socialize. Security cameras capture Brian entering at 1:15 a.m. He's seen talking to 2 women near the bar at 1:05 a.m. Then he walks toward the back of the bar. The cameras never show him leaving. Police investigation revealed the ugly tuna saloon had only one public entrance. Security cameras covered this entrance continuously. Every person entering and exiting was recorded. Brian appears on the footage going in. He never appears coming out. The bar occupied the 7th floor of a building. A back service entrance led to a construction area, but it was locked and alarmed. Police found no evidence the alarm was triggered that night. The only other exit was a fire escape, also alarmed. No alarm record exists. Investigators interviewed every person who was at the bar. Friends reported Brian seemed intoxicated but normal. He talked about his upcoming trip and seemed happy despite grieving his mother. Alexis, his girlfriend, called his phone repeatedly the next day. No answer. His apartment showed no signs of disturbance. His car remained parked where he'd left it. His bank accounts and credit cards were never touched after that night. His cell phone went straight to voicemail after April 1st. One detail disturbs investigators. Clint Florence, Brian's friend from that night, refused to take a polygraph test. He told police he last saw Brian talking to the two women, then lost track of him in the crowd. Clint left the bar around 2 a.m. assuming Brian had already gone home. He was the last known person to see Brian alive. His refusal to take the polygraph raised suspicions, though he never named a suspect. He later became an attorney and has declined to speak publicly about the case. Security footage from nearby buildings was reviewed. One camera from a construction site caught something unusual. At 2:01 a.m., a figure that might be Brian appears outside the building, moving quickly. The quality is poor and identification isn't definitive. If it was him, how did he exit without appearing on the bar's cameras? The back service entrance was ruled out by police, but some investigators believe he may have left through the construction area during a brief window when workers left it unlocked. In September 2008, Brian's father Randy died of cancer while still searching for his son. He'd conducted his own investigation, putting up reward posters and hiring private detectives. A detective working for the family believed Brian died accidentally and his body was concealed by someone who panicked. Others theorized voluntary disappearance. Brian's credit card was used once on April 1st at a Shell station near campus, but surveillance footage showed it wasn't Brian using it. The transaction was never fully explained. Sightings poured in over the years. Multiple people reported seeing Brian in various locations. A woman claimed she saw him in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and spoke to him. He allegedly introduced himself by name. When police investigated, they found no evidence confirming the sighting. In 2008, another witness claimed to see him in Seattle. Again, no confirmation. These phantom sightings are common missing person cases. The Mind wants closure. The bar closed in 2020. Investigators searched it repeatedly over the years, including with cadaver dogs. Nothing was found. If Brian died in the building, his body was removed without detection. If he left voluntarily, he's maintained perfect invisibility for 18 years. His medical school records, his financial profile, his social connections, all abandoned completely. No confirmed trace of Brian Schaffer exists after 10:55 a.m. on April 1st, 2006. Online communities obsess over the construction area theory. Could he have wandered into the construction site while intoxicated and fallen? Was his body sealed behind drywall or removed with demolition debris? The building underwent extensive renovations that year. Did someone at the bar know what happened and concealed it? The two women he was photographed talking to were interviewed and cleared. The simplest explanation, that he walked out an unmonitored exit, contradicts police findings that every exit was secured. Brian's family continues searching. His girlfriend Alexis eventually moved on with her life after years of waiting. A website dedicated to his case receives occasional tips. None have led anywhere. The surveillance footage from that night has been analyzed frame by professionals and amateurs. The mystery persists. A man enters a bar and ceases to exist. No body, no evidence, no explanation. Just empty footage and unanswered questions. Johnny Gosch, a paperboy, vanishes on his morning route 92. His mother spends decades claiming he was kidnapped into a child trafficking network. The case becomes America's first missing child to appear on a milk carton. September 5, 1982. Johnny Gosch, 12 years old, begins his paper route in West Des Moines, Iowa at 6 a.m. A witness later reports seeing a man talking to Johnny near the corner of 42nd Street and Marquardt Lane. Another witness saw a silver Ford Fairmont following the boy. At 7:30 a.m., undelivered papers are found scattered near Johnny's road. Johnny is gone. His wagon remains on the street. The initial police response was catastrophic. Officers told Johnny's parents, Noreen and John, that the boy probably ran away and would return. They refused to issue an immediate alert. Critical hours passed. By the time a proper investigation started, potential witnesses had left the area and evidence was contaminated. Noreen Gosch became furious. She launched her own investigation, believing authorities were incompetent or deliberately obstructing the case. Years passed with no resolution. Then came a development that split public opinion. In 1997, Noreen claimed a man visited her home in the middle of the night accompanied by a younger man. She insisted the younger man was Johnny, now in his 20s. He allegedly told her he'd been kidnapped and forced into a child trafficking operation controlled by powerful figures. He said he couldn't stay and left after a brief conversation. No one else witnessed this visit. Johnny's father, John, publicly stated he didn't believe Noreen's account. Law enforcement found no evidence supporting it. Noreen connected Johnny's case to a broader conspiracy. Private investigator John DeCamp had published a book alleging an organized child trafficking ring operated from Omaha, Nebraska, involving prominent citizens and politicians. This operation, known as the Franklin Scandal, was investigated and largely discredited as a moral panic fueled by unreliable testimony. But Noreen believed Johnny was a victim of this network. She pointed to another missing paperboy, Eugene Martin, who vanished from Des Moines in 1984 under similar circumstances, and to Mark Allen, taken in 1986 from a nearby town. All three cases remain unsolved. In 2006, Noreen received mysterious photographs pushed under her door. The images showed three boys bound and gagged. One appeared to resemble Johnny. Investigators analyzed the photos and determined they were likely taken in the 1970s, before Johnny's abduction. The boys in the photos were never identified. The photo's origin remains unknown. Noreen maintains one boy is her son. Experts disagree. DNA technology offered 2003. Skeletal remains found in rural Iowa were tested against Johnny's DNA. Not a match. In 2009, a man named Anthony Jackson claimed he was Johnny Gosch living under a new identity. DNA testing proved he wasn't. Multiple people over the years have claimed to be Johnny or to know where he is. All have been false leads. The case attracted conspiracy theorists. Some believe Johnny was kidnapped by a government-connected trafficking operation that supplies children to powerful pedophiles. Others believe he died shortly after his abduction, and the subsequent claims are either delusions or opportunistic hoaxes. Legitimate investigators focus on a more straightforward theory. A predator watched paperboys, planned the abduction, and grabbed Johnny during his route. The silver car following him supports this. The child might have been murdered soon after or transported far from Iowa and is living under coercion or with no memory of his identity. Noreen never stopped searching. She became an advocate for missing children, pushing for legislation that would improve police response to child abductions. Johnny's case led to fingerprinting programs and faster law enforcement protocols. The first missing child to appear on a milk carton was Johnny Gosch, raising national awareness. Noreen wrote a book about her experience and maintains a website dedicated to finding him. In 2008, the West Des Moines police concluded Johnny was likely abducted by a local criminal who has since died. They believe the most likely suspect died in 2015 without ever being charged. No physical evidence connects this person to Johnny definitively. The case officially remains open and unsolved. Johnny Gosch would be 54 years old today if he's alive. His face frozen at age 12 on posters and websites. His mother refuses to accept his death until she sees a body. The internet keeps the case alive. Every few years, new theories surface. Documentaries re-examine the evidence. But the boy who vanished on a September morning remains vanished. His papers scattered on the street, his wagon abandoned, his life interrupted mid-routine. Whatever happened in those minutes between leaving home and the discovery of his wagon, only Johnny knows. And he isn't telling. The Max Headroom incident. On November 22, 1987, Chicago television viewers experienced one of the strangest intrusions in broadcast history. Someone hijacks two TV stations and airs a bizarre video wearing a Max Headroom mask. The perpetrator is never caught. The first intrusion occurs at 9:14 p.m. during a WGN TV sports broadcast. The signal cuts out for 15 seconds. A figure appears wearing a Max Headroom mask, moving erratically, rotating corrugated metal background. No audio plays. Engineers quickly switch frequencies and restore normal programming. It seems like a brief technical glitch or prank. 3 hours later, the second hijacking hits WTTW, a PBS station. At 11:15 p.m. during a Doctor Who episode, the same masked figure returns, this time with audio. For 90 seconds, viewers witness some disturbing and incomprehensible. The figure wearing the Max Headroom mask moves spasmodically, speaking in a distorted voice. He references WGN sportscast Chuck Swirsky, makes crude comments, hums the Clutch Cargo theme song, holds up a Pepsi can while mocking Coke commercials Max Headroom appeared in. Someone off camera laughs. The figure pulls down his pants while a person spanks him with a fly swatter. Then the broadcast cuts back to Doctor Who. The FCC launched an immediate investigation. Hijacking broadcast signals is a federal crime. The technique used was signal intrusion, where a stronger pirate signal overpowers the legitimate broadcast. Both WGN and WTTW transmitters were targeted. The hijacker needed sophisticated equipment, knowledge of broadcast frequencies, and perfect timing to avoid immediate detection. Engineers determined the pirate signal came from a location with direct line of sight to the station's receivers, likely from a tall building or rooftop. Despite extensive investigation, no arrests were made. The FCC offered rewards. Theories pointed to broadcast engineers, students with engineering knowledge, or amateur radio enthusiasts. The Max Headroom character was a cultural reference at the time, a computer-generated AI host that appeared in commercials in a short-lived TV series. The hijacker chose this mask deliberately, adding a layer of mockery to the intrusion. The content itself remains puzzling. The references to Chuck Swirsky, the clutch cargo theme, the Pepsi can, all seem random unless they have personal meaning to the hijacker. The sexual content at the end was crude and juvenile. Some analysts believe it was simply chaos for chaos's sake, a demonstration of technical ability combined with sophomoric humor. Others search for deeper meaning in the rambling dialogue. Audio analysis has been conducted countless times. The voice might be disguised electronically or might be the person's natural speech distorted by the mask and transmission. Online communities have investigated for decades. Reddit forums, YouTube videos, and dedicated websites analyze every frame. Audio engineers have attempted to clean up the distorted voice. Investigators focus on identifying the laughing accomplice heard off camera. The rotating corrugated background has studied to determine the location it was filmed. No definitive answers emerge. One strong theory suggests the perpetrator was connected to the broadcasting industry. The technical knowledge required, the timing of both intrusions, and the specific choice of stations indicate insider knowledge. Some believe it was a disgruntled former employee making a statement. Others think it was students from a local technical college executing a prank. The second accomplice, possibly more than one person off camera, suggests a small group was involved. The statute of limitations for the crime has expired. If the hijacker came forward today, they couldn't be prosecuted for the broadcast intrusion itself, though other charges might apply. Despite this, no one has credibly claimed responsibility. A few individuals over the years have suggested they know who did it or were involved, but no proof has been provided. The mystery remains intact. The incident represents a moment when broadcast television's vulnerabilities were exposed. Security was increased after the hijackings. Similar intrusions have occurred but are extremely rare. The Max Headroom incident stands as the most famous and strangest example. It captures a specific era of technology when pirate signals could briefly seize control and broadcast anything. Today's digital systems make such intrusions nearly impossible. The footage itself has become an internet artifact. Copies circulate endlessly. New viewers encounter it and react with confusion and unease. The distorted voice, the spasmodic movements, the crude humor all combine into something genuinely unsettling. Whether the hijacker intended to create something disturbing or was simply executing a technically impressive prank remains unknown. The 90 seconds of footage offer no clear answers. Just a masked figure, moving against corrugated metal, speaking nonsense into the void, and vanishing back into obscurity. These cases share a common thread. Information exists, but resolution doesn't. Evidence points in multiple directions. Witnesses remember different things. The truth remains just out of reach, preserved but not explained by the internet's endless memory. These mysteries endure because they resist simple answers. We want closure. We want to understand what happened to Kris and Lisanne in the jungle, why Elisa behaved so strangely in that elevator, where Brian Schaffer went after walking into a bar, who took Johnny Gosch and whether he's still alive, what terrified the Dyatlov group into freezing to death, whether Snia Philip died heroically or vanished deliberately, and who hijacked Chicago's airwaves wearing a rubber mask. The internet preserves these stories. Each year brings new investigators, new theories, new analysis. Technology improves. Old evidence gets re-examined. But some mysteries may be fundamentally unsolvable. Not every question has an answer waiting to be found. Some truths are lost in the jungle, at the bottom of a water tank, inside a closed bar, on a dark morning paper route, frozen in Siberian snow, buried in the rubble of fallen towers, or broadcast into static and forgotten. These cases remind us the unknown still exists. The digital age promised transparency and information. But gaps remain. People vanish. Events occur without explanation. The internet documents everything and solves nothing. We're left with fragments. 90 photos taken in darkness. 4 minutes of elevator footage. A paper route interrupted. A tent slashed from inside. Security cameras that show a man entering but never leaving. An elderly woman opening her door to find a son who should be a stranger. A television screen hijacked by a figure in a mask. The truth is out there. Maybe. Or maybe some mystery exists to stay mysterious, to remind us how little we actually know, to humble our certainty. These unsolved cases live in the space between evidence and explanation, between what we can prove and what we believe. They challenge us, they disturb us, and they remain frozen in digital amber, waiting for answers that may never come. Comment below what country you're watching from and which Unsolved I should investigate next. Subscribe for more deep dives into the cases that refuse to be closed.